If you would like to get your song reviewed, dear listener, there's the filthy capitalist option, as Sori says. $125 gets you straight to the head of the line. You don't have to be a part of the alliance. You don't have to be part of the group.
Wait a minute.
And the biggest thing is you don't have to wait. You hop, skip, and jump right in front of everybody. $125 gets you there. You do that 3 times, and then get mashed down to the $75 rate for perpetuity.
Yes!
Also, there is a band review option. So if you've got a band and you're trying to get your band some exposure, hit me up at vinsori@gmail.com, and I'll show you the details about how to pull that off.
You can also jump on Patreon, and there is a option on the tiers to be able to get your band reviewed. Yep. Obviously, we can't lie to you, so we can't guarantee a positive review. Get what you get.
It's just rubbish.
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 That's British for garbage.
My favorite is a community option. $1 at the gate gets you in at Patreon. You get to join an alliance. The alliance joins their points together, and that helps determine what songs that we do.
The alliances hang out on Discord.
Message me on Patreon to get the link.
And they do all kinds of other cool things. They do Minecraft, Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah. It's really a community within the community. Anybody can go on the village, facebook.com/Vin and Sori. There's 160,000+ people on the channel. What's cool about the Discord is that it offers a real opportunity for community connection, friendship, that type of thing.
And it's on Discord, so if you're not a Facebook person, it's for you.
You start off at $1.
Right.
Plus you get exclusives. Sori and I are working on a song. So the first 15 seconds of that was on Patreon. Also, at $15 tier and above, when we actually debut the video, they're going to be there live with us. There you are, dear listener.
Buy our merch.
Buy our merch indeed, and Chow shall lead them.
To buy our merch.
Yes, dear listener. Yes, dear listener. Yes, dear listener. Speaking of...
We have a very interesting...
Does the dragon count as merch?
Anyway, if you're interested in winning this dragon, there is a way to do that. The video is going to give you more of the details. Right, it's called Win a Dragon Music Challenge. Okay. So you can get all the details by watching. It's only a 50-second video, so it's low impact.
Yeah,
we don't do a 40-minute breakdown on it. This is for the big homie Brian. He said, I've been a casual viewer of your channel for a while now. I really enjoy the work that both of you do, and I hope that you will continue doing it well into the future. I've been considering placing a song request through Patreon for over a year now, but I just never got around to it until now. Stay well and take care. You too, Brian.
All right. Father John Misty. The name of this song is Pure Comedy, believe it or not. Let's do it.
At 6.
The comedy of man starts like this. Our brains are way too big for our mothers.
Jeez,
and so nature, she devised this alternative. We emerge half-formed and hope whoever greets us on the other end is kind enough to fill us in. And babies, that's pretty much how it's been ever since. Now the miracle of birth leaves a few issues to address. Like say that half of us are periodically iron deficient. So somebody's gotta go kill something while I look after the kids. I do it myself, but what? Are you gonna get this thing? It's milk. He says as soon as he gets back from the hunt, we can swim. It's hard not to fall in love with something so helpless. Ladies, I hope we don't end up regretting this. Comedy Now that's what I call pure comedy. Just wait until the part where they start to believe they're at the center of everything, and some all-powerful being endowed this horror show with meaning. Oh, their religions are the best. They worship themselves, yet they're totally obsessed with risen zombies, celestial virgins, magic tricks, these unbelievable outfits, and they get terribly upset when you question their sacred texts written by a woman-hating epileptic.
What? What?
Their language is just served to confuse them. Their confusion somehow makes them more sure. They build fortunes, poisoning their offspring, and hand out prizes when someone patents a cure. Where did they find these goons they elected to rule them? What makes these clowns they idolize so remarkable? These mammals are hell-bent on fashioning new gods, so they can go on being godless animals. For irony, their idea of being free is a prison of beliefs that they never ever have to leave. Oh, comedy. Oh, it's like something that a madman would conceive. The only thing that seems to make them feel alive is the struggle to survive, but the only thing that they request is something to numb the pain with, until there's nothing human left. Just random matter suspended in the dark. I hate to say it, but each other's all we've got.
Interesting.
Yes. Yeah.
Why did he say... Okay, I'm a little bit stuck on that because I don't know what he meant when he said... Obviously, I know where the man-hating stuff came from, like the women-hating stuff or whatever.
Man-hating stuff? Where'd you see
women-hating. Written by women-hating epileptics. Why epileptics? What?
Well, where are you getting the women-hating part?
He said it. Written by women-hating
You said you understood it.
Oh, yeah. You know how, like, everybody always says that the Bible is written by people that hated women and stuff? Like, literally, there was this, just like 2 days ago, there was this girl that was like, I don't subscribe to this... basically like male deity and this patriarchal blah blah blah, and just went on and on and on. She was like, I think that, you know, whatever the biggest being is, and it's a woman, and blah blah blah. And I said, well, you know, if somebody puts on a pair of green glasses, the whole world is going to be seen through shades of green. And I said, you have to be careful that you're not in, because what happens is the original authors may be communicating one thing, but the people interpreting it might be interpreting it with those women-hating glasses on. And if they do, then they're going to interpret all the text that way. That doesn't mean that's the way that it was written. I mean, obviously that's not the way it was written, because if you know a lot of the writings back, like if we're talking Old Testament, a lot of the writings were beyond its time as far as protecting women and creating fail-safes so women would be in a better environment. But if you don't know that, and you are not like reading the text for yourself and seeing like where that was in history, and you're just taking some interpretation from some patriarchal bullshit, then that's what you're going to get from the text as well, which I think happens to a lot of people. So when they said woman hating, I assumed that that's what we were talking about when you question their sacred text written by women hating epileptics. But the epileptics part didn't make any sense to me, because I don't know where that's coming from. Is there another text we're talking about? I assumed it was the Bible.
Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and Paul too. You know what Paul says? See, I write this with my own hands.
Yeah.
Usually when Paul was writing something in the New Testament, it wasn't Paul writing, it was an amanuensis.
Yes. Yeah.
And one of the explanations for that is that Paul was epileptic, which is a common, you know,
See,
when
we were always told he couldn't see good.
You know, like the thorn in the flesh?
Yeah.
A lot of people speculate that it was his lifelong battle with epilepsy, which was a common
But why would that
at
prevent
time
him
period.
from writing?
Well, all the various symptoms that go along with epilepsy, with your vision and other things, put you in a situation where you're not going to be a very good author. So it's speculated that Paul was epileptic. Same thing with Muhammad. Muhammad would have these fits when he was getting revelation, which if you compare it to...
I don't know if that was epilepsy, though.
If you compare it to epileptic, you know, maladies, they're very, very similar, of course.
Yeah, but he said he had something choking him.
Well, there were a lot of... It wasn't just one kind of thing, but yeah. I hear what you're saying.
That's so
think
interesting.
It's extremely...
I never have heard that about Paul. Okay, if I heard it, I don't remember. Have you said it before?
Yeah, when I was going over Paul's thorn in the flesh, I talked about it, like the different categories of what the issues would be.
Yeah.
You know, I talked to a I was having a discussion back and forth with my atheist friend, and he was talking about how misogynistic the woman the Bible is against women.
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, man, definitely, because Eve ate the apple first, but from a biblical perspective,
it's called the sin of Adam.
Adam gets blamed for the entire thing. As a matter of fact, it's known as the fall of man, or the fall of Adam. Mm-hmm. Adam gets blamed for everything, when Eve was the one that led Adam into the thing in the first place. Mm-hmm. So if you wanted to, you know, and Paul is the guy that really explicitly says it's Adam's fault. You know, through one man sin into the world, through another man. As a matter of fact, Paul's logic, really in 1 Corinthians 15, if you tease it out, Paul's logic in 1 Corinthians 15 was, because a man screwed everything up, mm-hmm. God had to appear as a man to redeem everything. Mm-hmm. Because men are carrying the blame for the maladies of the entire universe, mm-hmm. Paul's epilepsy included. Mm-hmm. But anyway, I was talking to this guy, and he's like, the Bible presents the woman as just the helper, the slave of the man. And I said, well, yeah, I mean, it does say that he has a woman there to help him. I said, do you know what the Hebrew word for help is?
Etzer. It's
etzer, E-Z-E-R. And do you know who is usually called a helper, especially in the Old Testament context? Do you know who's called the helper in the Old Testament context? He said, it doesn't matter. I'm like, well,
it's not relevant.
It kind of matters how words are used. The Hebrew word etzir is used a bunch of times in the Old Testament, and the vast majority of the time the word etzir is used, it's speaking of God. I lift up my eyes to the hills. Where does my help come from? Mm-hmm. The word there is the exact, and obviously the next line is, my help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth.
Yep.
So, O Jeshurun, and who rides on the clouds to your help? So the term etzir, or helper, in the Hebrew Bible is mostly applied to Yahweh when he is rescuing Israel from some calamity.
Yeah.
So when Eve is called the etzir, or the helper of Adam, we are taking a 20th century understanding of what help means, and not taking a ancient Near Eastern Hebrew understanding of helping. Helping means you're a rescuer.
Yeah, but a lot of people don't even see it they look at it like slavery. A doormat, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, you're taking a 20th century lens on a word instead of looking at the word for the way that the people that originally were using it, how they interpreted it. Mm-hmm. God presents Eve in a sort of a rescuing role, the closest thing to God to Adam. Mm-hmm. That's what a woman is at the beginning. Mm-hmm. Is that she? Yep. Adam has this mission to be, to dominate the world and all the rest of it, and God looks at Adam and says, "This guy is incomplete. He needs somebody to rescue him from his old bullshit." Mm-hmm. And so you see this played out in the scripture, the multitude of times where a woman goes and saves the day. For example, Abigail with her crazy husband, and all these other things. It's a very, 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 very fascinating perspective. And of course, to Perkinos's point, the Holy Spirit, who is now Christ with us in spirit form, is also called the Helper. Mm-hmm. These are words that are applied to God.
Yep. And
the first time it's used, it's not applied to God the first time it's used. The first time it's used, it's actually applied to the woman. So then God adopts that and says, yeah, I'm like that throughout the scripture. So you have to, if you want to see the Bible as a misogynistic book, you absolutely can. Mm-hmm. But when I told my friend this and I explained this to him, he said that can't be right. He said it was an ancient Near Eastern text. It was obviously misogynistic. I said, it's right there in front of you. Yeah. Here's the Hebrew. Yeah. Here's how many times it's used. Here is God most of the time calling himself the helper. Mm-hmm. As a matter of fact, most of the time in the Bible, when a human being is a helper, the person is being rebuked. Why are you going to this human being for help? Mm-hmm. The only time there is an exception where God is okay with a human being your help is your wife, your woman. Mm-hmm. So that person as your rescuer, fine. Anybody else other than me, not a good thing. So again, if you want to come to this with a presupposition the Bible's misogynistic, then obviously you're gonna. But if you come from it looking at it, if you come looking at it for what it is, you have the book of Proverbs, and the highest attainment in Proverbs is wisdom. Mm-hmm. And yet, wisdom is actually personified. And I would argue, and Perk, and I throw this out to Perk, I would argue that Proverbs 8 deifies the feminine aspect of wisdom. When it says the Lord possessed me at the beginning of his way, yada, 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 we apply that to Christ, I think rightfully so. But this is still Lady Wisdom talking in Proverbs 8. Yeah. So in Proverbs, wisdom is the pinnacle of everything. And how does wisdom get characterized? As a woman. As a matter of fact, the Proverb starts out with, listen to the instruction of your father and your mother. Mm-hmm. And then the end of Proverbs is a wise woman talking to her young son and saying, this is how to live life. And so you can do, what you want with it, but if you want to see the Bible as a misogynistic book, you can. If you want to see the Bible as an anti-male book, you can, because there's a lot of shit about men in the Bible that is not very encouraging. It all depends. Right. It all depends on
the prejudice you have.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
When you go to those particular texts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
And what's fascinating to me is like, but I agree with him though when he says like you people get defensive or they get angry at you for questioning their sacred texts. And that goes, I mean, it's true for everybody. Unless you're, and when I say everybody, I'm speaking generally. Like, so for example, if like Dr. Stephen Meyer, for example, he is really pointing out some issues with evolution properly considered. And you should see how people react to him. People go absolutely crazy if you question evolution. 99% of us don't know the first thing about those mechanics. 99% of us don't understand, the implications of X fossil. But we just know this is what we believe. That's it. And we don't want anybody upsetting the apple cart. And anybody that questions him, we're going to open them to ridicule and all the rest of it. And Dr. Stephen Meyer is, brilliant 5 times over. And most of the people mocking him don't even have the education to hold a conversation with him. So this phenomena where the sacred text, whether it is a secular sacred text or a religious sacred text, where you question it and people get angry and defensive, I mean, good night. I mean, look at the Constitution. That's a sacred text to a bunch of people. I was
just thinking that,
And people say strange things like, you're living your life by a book. It's like, what a strange thing to say. Like, what's the Constitution? Like, what is the Bill of Rights? Like, it's a piece of literature.
Right.
But when people question it, you get really
I think people
almost violent responses.
People have a certain, like, they've kind of set their feet on a foundation and they feel comfortable with that and they feel like, okay, this is what I believe in. And they may not, like, some people love to think through stuff. Like, AT, he's a thinker, you're a thinker, Perk's a thinker. There's a lot of thinkers on our channel that are not satisfied with just saying, okay, that's enough information for me. You guys want to dig deeper. You want to find out, okay, well, what about this? What about that? What about this? So people like that are okay usually to be questioned or to have what they believe in questioned.
Yeah, they enjoy it.
They've been doing it all along. But there are other people that don't spend the time to question it, and it actually scares them, because if you take away their foundation, they don't know what they're standing on anymore. They don't know what they're rooted in. And then they get very... I came up in an environment where a lot of people got like that if you questioned them on stuff. And I went through a phase where I probably wasn't the best person. I don't know, like, you probably would know better, like...
You just seem fearful.
I was.
Of things outside of your understanding of orthodoxy.
Yeah, if I didn't know how to answer it. Because I believed that I was on the right track, that I had, like, the truth. But if somebody asked me a question that, like... You used to always ask those questions. But it wasn't as scary when you would ask the question, because you never asked questions without having an answer. So...
Or so you thought.
Well, I don't remember you ever asking a question that you didn't really have an answer for. I think it's fear.
Yeah, to me, it's fear, because when I see Christians and somebody questions the Bible or like, I've said to people like, look, Jonah being swallowed by the whale, the earth being created in 6 literal days, a global flood, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, sorry, you don't have to believe that stuff to be a Christian. You just have to believe that Jesus lived, died, was crucified for your sins, and rose from the dead on the 3rd day. And there's enough historical data to make you say, okay, something unique happened with the Jesus event that's never happened before or since. Yeah. You could say that, okay, fine. But the other stuff, you could say, I got a problem with that. And it's like I said, in every relationship, there's give and take, and there's growth and things like that. And the things that you believe now may change in 10 years. Yeah. But the main thing is having a relationship with Christ. There's a lot of Christians that are really uncomfortable saying that.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And like, it's weird because of with this whole Roe v. Wade thing that's been going on. I've been seeing like a lot of Christians posting stuff saying, if you believe that abortion is okay, you are not a Christian. And I'm like, where, since when?
On what basis?
Yeah,
can you make
what
that
Bible
statement?
verse are you using for that? Yeah.
Yeah, but again, that's a fear mechanism used to control people's behavior.
Right, right.
Like instead of, I get it. It's a serious issue, but like when I see, like if you see Christians and their kids start questioning their faith and they go crazy, and they say it's because I love my child, blah blah blah. I'm like, yeah, I believe you love your kid, but a lot of that seems to me to be fear.
Yeah.
That your kids doubt, then cast doubt on the validity of your own faith. And I think that's what they're afraid of. So when our kids express doubt, I didn't even try to convert them. I said, "Yeah, man, that's I hear you."
You did that a couple times where you're like, "Well, that's a really good question."
Yeah, I'm like, that's a problem.
Let me know what you find out or something like that. I was like, "What?" With Dorian.
Yeah, like what do you?
But you don't do that with all of them. Like some of them, it just depends. Like, some you'll answer the questions. Sometimes you'll answer even, Dorian's questions and stuff. But then there are other times where it's like, okay, they gotta stand on their own little 2 feet now. They gotta try to.
When Dorian was 5, he knew how to Google and how to research things.
Right,
so when he'd ask a question, I wouldn't give him the answer.
Yeah.
But when the girls were saying they didn't believe in God anymore, they were mad at God, they weren't Christians anymore, I didn't freak out. I'm completely secure in my faith. And just because they're saying they don't believe, that's them. That's not me.
Yeah.
But a lot of parents will kind of like react and what are people going to say? And there's a whole bunch of fear responses that come because people are afraid that their kids' unbelief or that other people's unbelief is going to somehow invalidate their faith, which is obviously. But anyway, there's a lot in this song that's fascinating. So, for example, it talks about how like let's start from the beginning. Like if you look, the comedy of man starts like this, which is really interesting because comedy, we think of like Seinfeld and things like that. But Romeo and Juliet was technically classified as a comedy.
What? Oh, really?
Yeah, some of it had to do with Shakespeare's irony, the irony that was contained in the dialogue. So because it was ironic, things of that nature, it got classified as a comedy. So when I saw not like Seinfeldian comedy, but Shakespearean type comedy.
Yeah. Okay.
So the comedy of man starts like this. Our braids are way too big for our mother's hips. That was good. Why did you laugh at that point?
Well, just the idea of it, because honestly, when you're birthing a child, like it feels like this. It definitely feels like
that's the way it's supposed to go, miss.
It's like, so it was like funny in the like scary sense because I know in not too long I'll be in that situation, but then also like I've always thought that it was funny how big kids' heads are. Like when the babies,
when they're born, or just in general?
For a while. Like if you take, we take our arms and if you put them up over your head, if your head fit in there, like that would be like a one giant head. But that's how babies are. Like if you take their arms and put it up over their head, it like literally takes up the entire arm area. So their heads are just like really big for their bodies. We don't notice it as much because we've become accustomed to it. But it is true, they do have rather large heads for their small bodies. And so it was just a little funny to me.
Well, did you hear that theory on aliens?
What?
That it was birth trauma?
What?
Because a lot of these people, when they get abducted, this is a real theory about alien abduction. When these people get abducted, there's always some medical procedure happening.
I know, yeah. Okay.
So one of the theories is that these people are just having a sort of a birth experience regression. And so one scientist said that the people's heads would appear bulbous and weird and all distorted because the kid has no idea what he's looking at. You're seeing a head with eyes for the first time, and they're doing all this stuff to you. And you have
like what an interesting thought.
So one of the theories is that this is birth trauma. That you're just reliving your birth and how terrified you were when
honestly,
you were born.
like the delivery process, that's scary. And like when they're pulling the kid out, first of all, I feel like I'm almost completely dead by the time the baby is born. So I don't really have anything left in me to like fight with the doctor, but I always feel like that they're being like rough. And you've seen pictures where they're holding the kid up by one leg and stuff. Like, I feel like everybody's just being altogether too rough, and it should be a lot more. They should be a lot sweeter to that child.
Especially like the last final moment, like before you were taking the kid out, like the way they would pull the kid out all the time. I'm like, holy shit, could you be a little more?
I know.
But they're like, oh, it's fine. The kids are resilient. That's what I'm saying. So like, if you're born in that environment, yeah, you're gonna look at the doctor as a bad guy, and his face is all distorted, his eyes are all bulbous, and
well, yeah, and I'm
until
sure
you
that
figure out.
I mean, their eyes, they've been in that fluid, so everything would look all murky and weird.
Yeah.
That's such an interesting thought.
And that's pretty much how it's been ever. We emerge half formed. That's a good point. Like baby, people say things like a fully formed baby. Like the baby isn't done growing. His skull hasn't even fused by the time he's born. These are the things that you know when you have kids. Mm-hmm. I can always tell the people that have kids and the people that don't. Mm-hmm. You can just tell. It's like, oh, okay, this person's never had a child. Okay. The miracle of we emerged half formed and hope that whoever greets us on the other end is kind enough to fill us in. So that's a pretty cool line, like the whole, the need for guidance and all that jazz.
Yeah. There was this song or this poem or something like that, and it was basically the child before it was born, like it was hanging out with the angels, and it makes me emotional. And I don't even know if like it's real or whatever, but like because it doesn't really tell you where you were before you were born. But anyway, so the baby's like hanging out with the angels, and the angel keeps saying, "It's almost time for you to go. It's almost time for you to go." And then the baby's like, "Oh," see, I get emotional. The baby's like, "Well, who's gonna take care of me when I get there?" And they're like, "Oh, don't worry, you're gonna be fine. You're gonna be fine." And then like the time keeps progressing, and the baby's getting a little bit more like, "Well, what's gonna happen?" And but the baby keeps calling the angel, angel. And then when the baby is born, the angel introduces the baby. They said your angel's name is going to be Mommy, which is just very cute. But I think the topic of angels and babies is too much for me. But anyway, so it's that idea that once the baby's born, then the mother takes over the care for the child, and then the baby's like, okay, I guess I don't have the angels, but this is another form of an angel or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, like that, like you said, like the parents kind of take over the care of the child and raising them and stuff.
Yeah. Now, the miracle birth leaves a few issues to address, like say that half of us are periodically iron deficient, so somebody's got to go kill something while I look after these kids. I do it myself, but what are you going to do to get this thing its milk? He said as soon as he gets back from the hunt, we can switch. It's hard not to fall in love with something so helpless. Ladies, I hope we don't end up regretting this. So that's like... I would like to see a series of like... I'm not particularly sure I believe in the whole caveman scenario and all the rest of it where you're fighting, Triceratops, whatever the beasts are. Not the Triceratops. That was my favorite dinosaur when I was a kid. But I'm not sure. Yeah, Oh yeah, because it was small like me.
Oh,
but it was compact. Like you couldn't fuck with the Triceratops, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like they had this cartoon and the Tyrannosaurus was fighting the Triceratops and we won.
Oh really?
Well, I mean, we got away with our lives basically.
Oh.
I said, "Fuck that! I'm on the Triceratops team." But yeah, like that. I would love to see a mini series or something on. Discovery Channel did this thing called Earth or something like that. And it was like cavemen and people discovering fire and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
And
yeah, it was weird looking too.
Yeah, and it was fascinating, but it was all narration because obviously they couldn't speak yet. No, like I said, I'm not sure that I believe in that scenario. I'm not sure that that's how it actually was. I actually think we were a lot more advanced than people want to give credit for.
Yeah.
But
I agree.
But at the same time, like, it would be fascinating to see, because there is that struggle, like, you got to bring home the bacon, but the mom's taking care of her young, and the milk and the fear, like, that must have been a crazy, and there's no templates for anything, which is, again, why I'm skeptical about this idea that, you know, we're just unguided apes that evolved, and then there's a Homo sapiens, and then we just figured all this shit out by ourselves. I don't necessarily believe that scenario, but the truth is somewhere in between, somewhere, and it would just be really fascinating to be like, to watch that and to see that struggle, but at the same time see what's unique, but at the same time see what's similar about, you know, about all that. It would be fascinating. It says, just wait until the part they start to believe that they're the center of everything.
Oh my gosh. That part was also funny. If you have kids, it's...
There was one movie we watched one time. It was super avant-garde. Remember, it was like there's this couple, they moved into this neighborhood, they couldn't get out of the neighborhood, and then the box appeared at their door, and it was a baby in the box, and they had to take the baby, and the baby was... You don't remember it.
And what happened?
But anyway, the kid, it was like it grew overnight to be like a 9-year-old.
Oh my god, that was... okay, yeah.
But then he would start yelling, ah! And all this, and it was like really unnerving.
No, they were stuck in this fucking neighborhood that they couldn't get out of.
Yeah, they were stuck in the neighborhood, but what was fascinating was this kid was like 9-10 years old, and he would like scream, rah! And he'd cry and all this random stuff, and it was terrifying. But then somebody said, like, well, technically the kid is still a baby, so he's doing what a baby's doing.
But he was big.
But with a baby, like, we accept it. We accept it. But babies are the most self-centered category of human beings.
That's all they know. They just know themselves, and then
all they know is their ego.
To be outside of that,
and everybody around them just serves their purposes. That's it. So
that's how it has to be. But
I'm not making a moral judgment on the kid. I'm just saying it's a fact. People just have to recognize.
And I see it all the time. I'm in a lot of different mom groups, and they're like, I don't understand. Like, people like are genuinely confused why their toddler is so out of control, because they always want to do like the gentle parenting where they don't really discipline, and they just want to like kind of like give like some gentle correction to the kid, but the kid is just, the more that they're trying to be gentle, the more these kids, the lady was like, I told him to please calm himself down, and I took his hands gently, and she said he yanked his hands out, he slapped me across the face, and then he bit my ear. And she was like listing off all these things, and I was like,
yeah.
But people don't even believe in a timeout.
They don't get it.
It's like
they're starting with this presupposition
that it's a perfect child,
and
then
it's like,
are what
basically
happened?
Good. They're basically good, and then it's society. So if we do gentle parenting, it's going to be a gentle kid.
Right.
We're going to create a different society. That kid is like, man, fuck you.
I'm like, listen,
I'm going to take this Cheerio, bitch. I don't care what you say.
I'm like, listen, they're born only caring about their own needs. You have to show them a world outside of themselves.
They're
it's
selfish.
about guiding, and they have to be. You can't. No, not even a timeout.
Yeah.
No timeouts.
Because they really think the kid is born good,
and
that society and culture makes them the way they are. So they don't want to put the kid in timeout.
They make everything so freaking extreme. It's like, well, we can't put him in a timeout. That's jail. It's like, no, it's not jail. You're putting them in for literally 1 minute when they're, if they're 2 years old, you put them in there for 2 minutes. It's not jail. It's 2 minutes. Like, stop.
They'll learn eventually. When do you get the song?
No, you know what happens? They don't learn, they blow up on the kid, and then the kid gets way too much. All of a sudden, corporal punishment goes crazy because they waited too fucking long, and now they're losing it.
It's true.
Okay, so what did I give this song? The guy had a cool, chill voice. I'm going to give this one an 8.
This one is solid 9 for uniqueness. This is a very, very unique song, and this guy is super, super insightful. Super insightful takes in this song. I really like the way he did it. Really, really, really good song. Really, really good song. It's a 9 for me. We have more songs on the docket for you beautiful people. We spent, holy shit, almost an hour on that song. It's all good. All right, that's all right, dear listener. We're coming back with more metal goodness
never
on
know
the
what
way.
You're gonna get.
Vin out.
Sorry out.
Gone.